So what are you doing?
Today I'm going to attempt to remove some more of the Saracen from silk. So, a couple of my What's in the Weave blog posts I talk about how basically the difference between organza, which I have, and chiffon is that organza still has some of the original silk gum in it, all right, and that gives it its body and texture. Now, theoretically, if I boil this, it's going to degum the rest of it, and it's going to come out much more flowy. It's like this still has quite a bit of body to it. I want to see if I can boil that body out of it and make it really, really loose like chiffon. So that's what we're trying today. So we start with a gallon of water, and I need a 1/4 cup each of baking soda. Let's turn the stove on, actually. That was basically the end of my baking soda, so I guess I have to go to the store now. I had just enough to get it done. So 1/4 cup of baking soda, a 1/4 cup of our Orvus Wa Paste. So I found a website called, I believe it was called Wormspit. I will link it in the blog post. And this is how, now in that one he was degumming silk for spinning into threads. But I figured, why not? I'm literally using scrap fabric. I got nothing to lose by trying, so we're going to put a 1/4 cup of baking soda and a 1/4 cup of this Orvus paste in there. Let's get the soap all out of there before it really boils. Now, you need about a gallon of water to do this. And I'm using my super big pot because once it starts to boil, the soap is going to bubble up. So while I have about 4 quarts of water to a gallon, while I have a 5-quart pot, it will boil over with the soap if I don't put it in a big pot. So I'm using my really big pot for this. So the experiment today is we're seeing if I can degum the rest of this basically and turn it into chiffon, take it from organza to chiffon. I am using scrap obviously, because I don't want to risk ruining a huge chunk of fabric. So I just have this lovely scrap of silk organza. And once that boils, we're going to throw it in and let it boil for about 30 minutes. To see if that will change its texture at all. Theoretically, it will. Get this nice and blended in here. See, this is just from beating it. Just imagine if it was, boiling. It's going to boil over if it's not in a really big pot. And then once it boils, we throw this into the soup. We're going to let it boil for about 30 minutes. And then to really see if the texture's changed, we have to let it dry. But by the end of the day, we'll know if we can boil out the extra gum and turn organza into chiffon. Which is just an interesting thought experiment, because I think they actually cost about the same if you buy them. I mean, I only sell organza at this point in time, but I don't think chiffon is any more expensive. And now we wait. We're boiling here, clearly. As you can see, and this is why I opted for the huge pot versus the tiny little, there we go, versus a tiny little quart pot. I have turned my heat down to hopefully prevent the soap from boiling over. Here's my silk, and we're going in the soup. Oh, I got some color bleed right away. That's okay, because it's just going to boil into itself and hopefully come out of it nice and limpid. There we go. Okay, phew. Bubbles are dialing down. I was a little worried about the safety of my kitchen for a minute there. There we go. We are boiling our silk. Oh, I got a little loose thread there. In Orvus paste and baking soda and a gallon of water. Turn it down so it's going to simmer instead of actually boil, because I frankly don't want soap all over my kitchen. Oh no. There we go. Still simmering. Oh yeah, we got a good lively simmer going there. The bubbles are not as fierce. We're gonna let that go for 30 minutes, 2, 3. I will occasionally throughout kind of stir it just like this, just to move it around, but overall I'm mostly just gonna leave it alone. Oh, and then we'll pull it out, rinse it, and see if we were able to degum it anymore and turn it in from organza into chiffon. Okay. All right. We have boiled for 30 minutes. We won't really know until it's dry if we were successful. You know what? This is shit for getting the wet fabric out of there. let's go for, here we go, something I can grab with. Alright.
Looks like you lost a lot of color.
I have lost a ton of color. So there you go. If you ever want to remove it and you remove color and you don't want to use the RIT color dye remover, boil the tar out of it. Because holy cow, that is definitely not red anymore. For now, we're going to kill the bird. Kill the bird. Wowie. Alright, I'm going to rinse it, get all the soap out of it. Fortunately, I have lots of this available to show a comparison when it's dry. Alright, there we go. Now we gotta wait for it to dry and see what it looks like. We'll come back and do another little filming in about probably an hour. I don't imagine it'll take longer than that for this to dry out all the way. Wow, that's definitely not red anymore. Nobody could say that was red, not by any stretch of the imagination.
That's light red.
Yeah, it's called pink.
Light red.
Also known as pink. Alright, we're gonna let this dry. We'll come back and check it in an hour to see if the texture has changed significantly. Alright, so here's my boiled out organza. It definitely has a softer hand. It doesn't have quite the same body. Obviously, the color definitely changed. In comparison, there's no doubt that this definitely lost some color. It is softer. It is not as ragdoll soft as chiffon is. So if you wanted chiffon, buy chiffon. I don't think you can actually fully degum it. At least not the finished product. But it's changed. I mean, the hand has changed. It's definitely softer. It's got a different body. It's closer now to a very light habitai than to organza in feel. And that's how I would categorize it. It's closer to a habitai than an organza. But not chiffon. So that was kind of what I was curious about. More torture experiments to come. I might experiment more with boiling against the RIT color dye remover just to see how they change overall. But for now, this is where we're at. This is more of a pink color. Yeah, it was interesting. I might try it again.